the decisions and the thinking of all of you guys to the makeup meetings, which, like, I think we had a very substantial group at one of those meetings the last time through. But I want to hold everybody together so that we can come back and, in general, not have people out of sequence as we finalize this in the fall. That's going to be, a big challenge for me as we work through the summer. We also have some time in order to make sure that we're generally congruent as we go. It is at that point, correct me if I'm wrong, where once we kind of put it all together, we will then survey yet again just to see what that final recommendation looks like to voters. And so the work tonight will be largely focused on the long-range plan, which is what will we do over time in the district, the bond as well, and what are the, what that's going to look like, what will it cost voters, and then we'll talk a little bit down the road, just a little bit into the meeting, around the recommendations that we would ask for this committee to go to the board with for school consolidations. And so that's what we have in store for you guys tonight. That's all I got. Thanks for coming.
So we'll just do a little schedule recap because the fall will be a little bit more regimented because we have a deadline by December to issue any reports to the Department of Education. So we'll go through our schedules. We'll also talk about the consolidation discussion that Andy mentioned, do a little recap of Workshop 7. We'll go through the test fit review. We did some modification to see if we just, what we would change at West Albany. In particular, we're still presenting the same two schemes at South Albany in case people were not here last time to understand what the differences between the two schemes are. And then also the Taquina test fit, so we talked about what that might look like for bringing Central students over to that site as well. Then we'll have a break and we'll talk through the final group exercise that we have, going through the priorities that we've gone through for elementary and middle school and high school, making sure they're the right setup, or are there any changes we want to make, and with those dollar amounts that if we close schools, what dollars do we still have to put to them to keep them from leaking and deteriorating, those kinds of conversations. So like we mentioned, this is our last time before September. We're going to finalize the priorities that we set up and put them into packages that we might go out to a discussion for polling. We'll come back together in September to finalize, as Andy was mentioning, the recommendations that we have put in front of the board in the long-range facility plan report. And then the board will want to vote on those, that plan in November, so we can get it to the State Department of Education by the 1st of December. And so that will help with that grant, the awesome grant that we talked about, the potential $8 million that you get if you pass your bond. That application is due on the 15th. Okay. So those are these are the meetings that we're going to have. Just going through the polling results. What does that change about our plan, if anything? And then finalize the plan on the 15th, and then come back to the. This will not be a meeting that we have, but this is a meeting that would happen with the board.
So there's 2 more meetings.
2 more. That's it. Follow-up sessions, if you need to get in touch with Chris, have a follow-up session from tonight's workshop. And then again, where we are, we're still kind of finalizing our prioritizations. We've been here a little while just because there's a lot of information that we've had to go through. And so this is going to be the last time we are here until we get to the polling results. So we'll do one more final round before we get to the promote. And this will be the stage where you're actually, the board has approved the package, you're going to go out for bond, then you start promoting the plan in your community. So we're almost done.
I did that intensely, trying to turn it off.
Andy, did you want to talk about the school consolidation discussion? So
I think it's on the slide coming up.
this one.
Okay. So as we are working on this, we want to separate long-range facility plan, building capacity, and then the administrative policies that the board would take action on and evaluate. I think Tim had asked at the very first meeting, are we going to be doing something with that? And I said that would be the board's work, but getting feedback from the board through this year, they would like some recommendation to come from this committee. Down at the bottom, policy or administrative recommendations, and we can come back to you with a little bit more, but we can talk about this, but we want there to be triggers that would either trigger looking at it. If you guys said it must happen at a given time, we think that would be too much of a role for this committee, but we should have triggers that the board will look at. And if you take a look at the building capacity review there in the middle, we will propose, we would ask that you guys consider a proposal that they be looked at annually. Only because we looked at it this year and we looked at building capacity and the current enrollment, but that enrollment could change. And so looking at it each year, we'll keep this top of mind, and we will look to put like review steps and then process in for when the board would look at that annually. And so there's a couple things there. Number one, you can't do it in 2 months. Like Corvallis did it in November for the end of the year. Put incredible pressure on them to mechanize those moves, and it caught the community off guard, and it was a very short time span. It was very difficult. And so what we would want to do is work out something with the board probably, and not you guys, if you guys can come up with recommendations, that we would work on a yearly calendar when we would do the review and how far out in front that would be prior to any consolidation.
Anybody have questions?
Will that be part of this discussion today or the next 2 meetings?
Well, we wanted to just share this out, but we will come back at the next meeting with a set of recommendations. I think we have one here coming up. Slide coming. So this is where we left it at the last meeting, and this is probably the insight I had into, like, we have a group of people in the room, and we have, 10 other people that are on this committee that we're trying to convey what the group said, that the group is kind of doing the movement. But we wanted to just say high priority and then lower priority, meaning that there's a certain order to that, but there's no yearly timeframes. If we said 6 to 10 years, we wouldn't look at a school until the 6th year, somewhere between 6 and 10, or if we looked at another school and said we won't look at it until 10 years out, we simply cannot know the conditions that could exist in year 4, right? The only school, if we said we want to evaluate the schools under 200 or triggers for North Albany around the total population of students north of the bridge in Benton County, we could do that. The only school that fell off of this was Oak Elementary, which is also, right at 200, right? And so if we said we would evaluate those schools, that does not imply then that the board would have to consolidate those schools. It means that there would be an evaluation process that would take place. Questions about that?
All right, so just recapping the last workshop, we shared this spreadsheet with you guys last time. We did kind of revise our numbers based on your comments. So instead of it being a cumulative dollar amount, we start with the base cost with the elementary school priorities for those core items, high, medium, and low priority, what those costs are to do those for just elementary schools. And then we just separated out the columns for the Central, Nays, Tangent, Waverly with those priorities. If those schools were to close, these are costs that could come off. So let's say replacing windows at Central, we could take out 1.3 million out of that overall budget. So we just gave those as examples, corrected our numbers, and made sure that everything was square on those. We also, you'll notice, We did a 7 classroom addition at Takina, or at an elementary school, which is presumed to be Takina. We just were double checking our numbers and realized that we had an extra sped class that needed to be accounted for with the consolidation of Central. So the overall cost increased slightly, not a ton. We had a little bit of overage in our square footage, honestly, so we were able to take over most of that with our previous numbers. Yes?
So you have on base costs, 7,600 for those classrooms, but then over on Central, you have 7,600. But if Central closed, you'd still have to pay that for.
See, you guys find the hidden, price every time. That shouldn't be there. So,
Okay.
yeah. You guys are really good. All right. So, but yeah. Any other questions on that? Sorry. Shouldn't be really any surprises on numbers there.
So with that, you're looking at roughly $4 million of savings by closing Central.
Yeah, 4.3.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still a little bit of, we'd have to do something to the roof. We need to do something with the cooling just to make sure that the
Sure.
building,
So I was only removing the classroom addition.
yeah.
And then Nays, if we did the bare essentials, or if we closed that school, we would recover 2.2.
Yeah, and so obviously we're looking at, so if we were to think, let's say 2 years down the road, for
Sure.
example, closing Nays, then we don't need to invest in mechanical repairs, right? We don't need to do those things. So those can come out of the base cost.
Question on that is like, and I mean, I'm not saying Nays, I'm just asking in general, like, hey, you go out, you campaign, you pass this bond, and then the numbers trigger the consolidation of Nays to go to NAMS and run a 4-8, K3 goes to Oak Grove, then you would not spend any of that, or you would only look at envelope repairs to protect?
You would want to just look at what your bare minimum, basically, to
Sure.
keep the building.
Envelope, basically.
Yeah.
I would think one of the options with Nays is that you basically clear off the lot.
And that's all that could be discussed as part of that.
All over them.
Yeah, it's just gone.
Yeah,
You could
Because
do
there are a lot
demo
of issues with that building.
yeah.
Put in a turf field for the middle school.
Or whatever. I don't know what you do, but it becomes excess property at some point.
Exactly.
Do we know the carrying costs, and I think he was alluding to Central, if it was just shuttered, what would be the carrying cost per year on it?
At Central.
I think we did.
So right now, we're going to have the, I can't remember what it's called, Albany Historical Museum.
Albany Regional Museum.
Their board came and met with me, and they would be interested in moving to Central if it were
Yeah.
open. I told them, you guys are in first place.
Would that be like a triple net, where they're responsible for everything?
Well, that would need to be worked out in some, either a lease.
You'd probably
for
lease it.
Use,
Yeah.
which would give us some control to be able to still have ball fields, which are another big concern of people in the community. They would not want to see that go away. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We're going to walk through with them in the summer, here in June.
All right, I'm gonna move on. So we did basically the same thing for the high schools after your guys', you did the paper strip exercise last time. I know you guys are tired of using paper strips, I know. But so we basically did the same thing where we ranked the high priorities, medium priorities, and low priorities based on what you guys populated on those lists. Core things, we are looking, it came up with the demo building 3 and replace building 6 at South Albany High School. I will say there's a caveat to that one, is that the option A got 2 votes and option B got 2 votes, so I combined them just so that we could, seemed important, so we kept it on there. We did go with the lower cost on this just for, as a point of reference, so. And then we also looked at what we revised it to phase 2 of the core classroom replacement at West Albany on there as well. And then looking at renovating building 2 at South Albany. So it seemed overall the trends, we wanted to kind of keep the cost equal between the high schools as close as we could. So that was kind of how the groups all landed with that. Then lower in the medium priorities, we looked, the additional work at West Albany, along with the remaining classrooms and then the athletic complex. Those all kind of got a medium priority towards the lower end of those. And then items such as like We looked at high school specific, like new turf at the softball and baseball fields. Those all ranked low on everybody's priorities. So kind of the common themes. And then once again, these are just costs, kind of like the elementary schools. So these are costs that could come off of that overall base cost with so this would be South Albany. If you renovate those buildings, get rid of 3, renovate 2, and redo 6, then you don't have, let's say, 1.6 million in mechanical cost for that project, because that'll be included in that project cost, whatever those renovations are. So it kind of follows the same suit with West Albany, just reducing some of those costs that can come out of those overall base costs. Any questions on those? You'll get a chance to discuss, I promise. So.
We're saving almost $4 million if we do that project. Put it right back in there.
And a lot of those, obviously, I mean, the big dollar ones are cooling, because those are just going to be baked into those very large dollar costs, right? So they're just kind of baked in there. So with that being said, just with that basic information, we just want to give you guys about 5 minutes internally at your teams to kind of discuss stuff that happened at that meeting, or some of the things we talked about. You can talk about, what happens with Central, those kind of things. So discuss amongst your table for 5 minutes, and then we'll do a report out. We'll meet back at, let's just say, 25 after. Sorry, I'm trying to do that. All right.
Yeah, I thought it was when they didn't put on both sides.
I know.
I wasn't either.
So Max has also been.
I missed the last meeting. I don't know that we take it off.
Was it really?
The West Albany project is now 2 phases or 3
True.
separate.
So that's
It
not
looked
a
like there was a
word.
third phase for athletic complex.
And as a side note, I forgot to say, we are going to review those West Albany and South Albany options again in the next item, so sorry.
We really were trying, like she said, to kind of balance out west and south, because you've done the sell to the community, and then all you do is west. It's not gonna work, and you shouldn't all do west. South deserves to be
Right, I mean, it's a 50-year-old school at this point too. Yeah.
So the one thing with North Albany Middle, you're suggesting
Every kid is pure.
Well, I'm suggesting if you wanted to, you could do it by fall, but I don't think you should. I think, but it could be done relatively easily. When Oak Grove was constructed, the kids who would have ordinarily gone to Oak Grove during that year and a half period were at North Albany and Fir Grove, which they opened up. And North Albany Middle School. One wing of the school was set aside for 4th and 5th grade. Similar to how Timber Ridge was now.
but that building's so bad.
So then they just demolished the old Oak Grove school and then built a new one. So the proposal, as I understand it now, is that Oak Grove becomes a K-3 school. Just I don't know. All of North Albany goes to North Albany. Intermediate school, I guess you call it.
It does, yeah.
And then Nays becomes surplus property. And you do with it whatever is appropriate.
Playgrounds right there. So I'm thinking of
Sure.
He'll own everything out there.
So, but it could be cleared off as an option. There's so much that needs to be done. To make it into a real school. Yeah, it's pieces, there's some portables there's all kinds of problems with asbestos and chip floor.
I'm not saying that's what would happen.
What's behind is there fields that they use, or is that middle school?
The middle school, yeah. They are adjacent properties. In fact, I think there's a fence that needs to be.
Could you use that property to create a secondary entrance? Because right now, there's only one major.
If you kept that property, you could use it for patients, I think, that you wanted to. I don't know about that.
I don't mind. I was gonna say, yeah, all the other schools are, but their parents are like.
But it is, yeah, it's a great question, getting it down.
It would be nice if it was maybe a loose.
Well,
It's a lot better with
So like,
but it's.
You're on
Yeah.
the string here, the string here, and then the, so the other thing is.
But they're adjacent.
Yeah.
They're just contiguous, yes.
So, yeah, Blair did, so we actually kept Eli. We moved this teacher to fifth grade and then when they were gonna be at two separate schools, it was like, that's where they should.
Central school.
I was just gonna ask about that, because the classrooms. The classrooms.
So if we add on to Takina was built to be added on to, it was added on to. You could do all the, well, actually, the kids go there anyhow. You can figure it out.
When you walk in that first. That's where it is.
It'd be a minimum to be after the bond.
I think area library because they
It's a perfect example.
And they were.
Yeah, Central School has graduated and there's gonna.
Setting classrooms, right?
Yeah, and two of those have been,
Yeah, it's in here somewhere.
So they have, there's no way without, I guess, is there a way without adding on to?
Families are being split.
Is there enough classroom space? All right, that's my question.
yeah, because I think otherwise, I mean, yeah, there's capacity in some of the other schools, but that's
Wait, we don't want to do that. Yeah, we don't want to do that. I just.
I mean, one here, we can tell itself is so small. That'll take all, they have 5 classrooms now for general.
I mean, middle school.
They're about, I think we have, so, like, behavioral health would be a little bit longer than the general.
I'm not on this.
Right now, we're showing them all.
I think the last time you mentioned at the high school level, then those are a little bit bigger because there's other stuff.
They have more the programming area at the schools than at this particular school. So, but yes, they're roughly about, they would be about 30 hours. Like, they have high skills, which does require. And they don't, so it's not actually a practice. It's on how to. But
And the thing is, I'm counting on.
But then you said where kids so for 1 year they're gonna go to the ed, and next year goes back.
Misused audit.
So I tried, no doubt.
Lots of that. So
But
all right,
in the same space.
time's up. Have tables report out what you guys talked about? I do. You guys want to go first?
Yep, we just thought that she did a great job recapping.
Sure. Is everybody ready?
What are we doing?
We'll recap the recap.
Okay.
We discussed what a great job she did recapping our last meeting. We had some discussion around if ever the Nays campus was closed and the Oak Grove versus 5th graders at NAMS happened again, where would the 5th graders play, and would they have access to playground equipment and things like that. But outside of that,
Okay. This group?
Well, we observed that when Oak Grove was built, in the year that the old Oak Grove disappeared and the new Oak Grove was being built, those students, the upper grades, 4th and 5th, as I recall, went to NAMS. And there was a wing that was dedicated to their attendance. And there were, I think, playground equipment set up in the area behind the school. I'm not sure about that. Someone probably.
Is that right, Nick?
Say that one more time, I didn't hear everything.
So when Oak Grove was under construction, the students who were 4th and 5th graders went to NAMS.
Yep.
Were there playground, was there playground equipment in the back of the school set up for them, do you know? No, okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, they used
Yeah,
the Nays playground.
That's what I was
Is that what
wondering.
happened?
Couldn't they do that?
They did.
They could use,
Okay. So,
yeah.
so we talked about that. And we also talked about Central. Apparently the Historical Society is anxious to
Yeah.
leave their current facilities, and Central plays a role in its potential future. But they're anxious to leave sooner than later. And so that's an issue. It may be that there's some kind of negotiations take place between the school district and so forth. But moving the kids to more than one elementary school, the Central kids for more than one elementary school is not an acceptable solution. So they need to go to Takina, and Takina needs to be constructed in order to accept them.
So it was also brought up, could Takina take modulars while the construction is going? We're just looking at options to get Central kids over there.
So there is a park across the street from Takina that's owned by the city. And it wouldn't be the first time that the city has rented space to the school district or to the community college in once upon a time.
They would just be crossing the street.
Yeah, there's that.
Space at Takina to build a school in Takina.
Anyhow,
There's a big field behind Takina.
That's what Beth was saying.
That you could put the modulars or something temporarily.
Oh, they would fit them for sure. The feasibility of that is another discussion.
Yeah. The other challenges there are, that would come from our operations budget. That would be a cost in the moment in the general fund. Bob, I will, we were already working with the museum board to do a tour, but I will set a meeting with them and see if that timing is, because I had mentioned that to them and they didn't seem to have much of an issue, that they thought that it would be planned. But I want to confirm that. I don't want to lose a deal if we can preserve it. So thank you for that.
Anything else from this group?
I don't think so.
Took away summarizing 2 points. And one was really with lots of discussion around that basically came down to, we have some really hard decisions to make that are going to be very unpopular with the public, parents. Yet, if we don't, we are putting money into facilities and not into kids. And we need to make these hard decisions so that we can put those dollars into their actual education. And then second, which we didn't have as much time to discuss, was really going back and saying, there's such a discrepancy between amount of money going towards high school versus elementary school that we need to have a group discussion about where are we going to go with that, and what are we going to say to the community about why we split it down the middle, or went heavy towards high school, or whatever, heavy towards at one point this group all went heavy towards elementary early on, and so it just seems like maybe we need to solidify what our thinking is around that.
So it sounds like maybe there's a question about, where would the students go if they, for NAs and NAMs, can we lay out a plan that they could fit in there? We just need a dedicated wing, maybe revisit how those dollars are distributed between the age levels, and then working through some of the questions about timing for Central and Takina.
Just being more aggressive in the timing, not 6 years out
Right.
now.
Yeah, so if it goes towards a bond and you pass the bond, that would definitely be one of the higher priorities for the bond dollars.
Can I just ask a question about how statewide education did not do very well in the last election with like a lot of districts, bonds and levies not passing? How does that affect the way we talk about this?
A lot of the bonds that you're seeing are passing are no levy increase. And so that's the direction that this committee agreed upon fairly early on, that we don't think the community would entertain a levy increase. And so that 168 million was the line item that we were working towards. And
So the ones that didn't pass were ones that were asking for increases on people, okay.
Yeah, and that, as some of our previous guests had mentioned, as we poll, we want to make sure we're listening to the polling results. Because the last time we polled, they actually had a really good feedback from supporting a bond levy rate that had some attention to the high schools and attention to maintaining your assets and improving them for students. So I don't necessarily see, now this was last time we polled, things might have changed when we go out again to propose some questions to the community, but I would be surprised if we had such an about face in terms of the opinion about keeping the levy rate, but still improving your schools. So it would mean something has changed significantly in opinion. But that's why we poll. But that's why we
So
poll.
hopefully they'll go down by May 27th.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we definitely want to pull in the later phases of this long-range facility planning, because now we have an idea closer to an idea of what that plan might be. And so we throw out more specific questions to your community to get that feedback. So we can really target the plan after we get that feedback too. Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, so we took a look at Takina, what it might look like. So the other schools all have sort of two wings built around the central core of the schools. And so this is basically where we would mimic that layout. We mentioned also that Central does have two special needs programs, their SPED program and then a behavioral health room that we want to make sure is in there with they wanted a shared restroom in between the two. So those are in that space, so that added another classroom that we were talking about. We were looking at, can we pull buses into the site? So G is a sort of a bus drop off instead of having it all happen on the street. You do have a lot of property on this, so we could extend that paved play area even down in this area if we wanted to as well. But we would need to extend the playground. You're going to have the youngers coming in as well as adding parking spots for the added staff to come on site. So this is where the modulars are currently, so we would remove those and incorporate those into the addition as well.
And would the current number of restrooms be able to serve the increase in school population?
It should, we'd have to double check that when we go through the numbers, but it's the same layout as the other schools, so it should in theory.
Yeah, those would just make that look exactly like Oak with the bathrooms currently there.
West Albany, we looked at a little different option, just focusing on just general education classroom space instead of bringing in wrestling and weight rooms, because there was a discussion about phase 3 being more of the athletic addition, increasing the size of the current gym, replacing the locker room. So can we remove that square footage, get more of an equitable cost per square foot based on the South Albany and West Albany, And so what we were looking at is, phase 2, still able to do 2 wings. This one's a little shorter, this one's a little bit longer, to be able to get all of your general education on site this first phase 2. And then phase 3, you could have, this whole wing would be demolished. Part of the reason we looked at this is because if we kept any of this building, we still have F Hall. That is a pretty major circulation path from this building to this building. So this layout would allow us to move this further south, keep F Hall, keep this whole wing over here, keep the gym in place, still have that circulation connection between the two, the old and the new building, and then focus phase 3 on an athletics addition. So that would replace your locker rooms that don't meet Title IX requirements, improve or increase the size of your wrestling room, new weight room, get them out of these 2 spaces here. But then you could still have this space if you wanted to keep it, you could, but ideally you didn't necessarily have to. But this would also keep CTE here in their current home. Those are expensive, large spaces, and then have those move into phase 3 as well.
So you would go down to 1 gym because it's phase 3 demo gym before phase 3 begins. So is the only gym left the new one?
Only during construction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it might be, is it here, is it somewhere else on site? That's the question that, it's sort of right in the middle of everything right now. So demo would be a pretty strategic conversation to have during phase 3 discussions. So that's kind of what we looked at to see if we could sort of right-size these programs and get the students. Yep.
So the air handling that I think had capacity for all of this new build is above the office in the southeast corner, is that correct? How do you connect the phase 2 on the board? Like how do you connect the airflow, the
Mechanical.
There's a 3rd floor, I don't think I
You're right,
remember.
right at.
Yeah, there's a big mezzanine. There's a big mezzanine up here that serves most of the school. There's also another mezzanine up here, right about here, that serves the rest of this wing. So there's a lot of square footage up there to be able to put more more equipment. But you would also consider a mechanical mezzanine up here to help.
Does that go underground?
No, it's all
To
above.
the north wing there of the new construction?
phase 2.
Does it go underground?
How are you going to connect
Oh.
the ventilation?
Ventilation, well, all of this is run in attic space and in interstitial ceiling space, so none of it's underground.
Okay.
Amy, just to be fully transparent, if we demolish the orange, there's going to need to be in the blue area, in that wing in the back, some major HVAC
Right.
remodeling, because most of those boilers and things exist in the orange
Right,
when we tear that out, so just to be transparent with that.
yeah, because the original,
It can be done, but it's going to be a cost associated with that.
yeah, because right now, the original school is all run still with underground boiler, hot water lines, so all of that would need to be revamped, and you could put a rooftop unit over here that serves that area. So,
Amy, Rick had a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
In the last bond, there was a grant for earthquake mitigation in the gym. Am I imagining it? Doesn't that have to have a certain life?
It's 10 years, which is why we're putting it in phase 3.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why we kept pushing it out to a later phase, because you have to maintain it for 10 years after you finish the work. So that's one of the reasons why it can't happen now.
But we were saying phase 3 would be on this bond.
No.
Oh, okay.
Phase
Oh,
3
I
is
confused that.
long-term.
Okay, so we were like,
Yeah.
wait.
We're
We're prioritizing wrestling?
Yeah,
Okay.
phase 3 is
That's better.
long-term, full replacement.
You just made me so happy, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So this is just a test layout to see how this might work. Because we're pulling it further south, we have less room in the courtyard, so we're just straightening these out. Media could come over here since before our first plan had CTE coming over here, so now this is a little bit more of a quiet zone, education zone. And it shortens the distance, having some walkway on the ground level between the two wings as well. And then we're just tying into the existing circulation system of the current school.
Maybe single stories, those two
It
things.
used to be 2 stories.
2 stories.
Yeah. So the second story, there's a covered bridge or covered walkway or an internalized walkway that would connect the two. This would also then be a covered walkway on the ground floor. And then basically the same layout on both second floor and first floor. So this helps quite a bit keeping those expensive CTE shop spaces where they are. I know the dust collection system isn't too terribly old. It was replaced fairly close to when the last bond occurred, so it would be a little bit of a problem to sell that to your community, say let's just replace the whole thing again. And then you can also build it a little bit further away. It's allowed space, get more square footage next to the gym in the future. So full build out, long-term plan, where your CTE could happen, and then a larger gym, larger wrestling rooms, locker rooms, team rooms off to the side as well. So then it ties nicely into the auxiliary gym and then that circulation that we put in on the ground floor of the new school. So it reduced the cost a little bit, reduced the square footage. We checked the numbers with enrollment, and we established last couple of sessions ago that you wanted to keep an 80% effective utilization. And so this number of classrooms meets that requirement, gets you at 1,500 capacity, but with 80% utilization, it gets you right at where you are currently with your enrollment.
Amy, did you guys talk about when we had drawn this a couple years ago, the media center connected the two over the top?
It did, because we're pulling this down further to maintain that building, that F Hall connection, you start to actually start blocking daylight into some of these classrooms.
Oh, okay.
And so the size of that media center, we don't want to, if it's right in the middle, it ended up about 4 to 8 classrooms ended up not having any daylight.
Okay, because it was connected so that the traffic flow was connected. And so that's why, because that was the original design, was that the media center would be over the top on the second floor and connect the two wings.
Yeah, this one, if we've got just a handful of site constraints, if we got to stay away from this building, give these classrooms enough distance to actually have appropriate daylight. And then this courtyard started to get really narrow to make sure that we had enough room to put media center here. It's still on the circulation path. It's just not the only thing on, like.
Is it on the first floor or the second floor?
This one is on the first floor.
Oh, and the other one was on the second floor. So
Right.
all the bottom was open.
Yeah, so now the whole bottom here is open with the exception of a covered walkway above. So, and this will all get flushed out as well when you pass the bond and you actually start designing it, but this is what fits.
How many classrooms are in each blue square? Is that?
This is a 2 stories one.
Or one each.
Yeah,
So
so
one
each classroom is 1 block.
The good thing about this is that gets the classroom space into the new build and gets most of the student on a day-to-day basis out of the old building. And it's less money.
Yeah. So the other option we looked at, this was still trying to keep CTE coming in to the building. It's larger, costs more money. We didn't spend too much time developing this further. But it also kind of gave us a conundrum of where that media center might want to be in between those two. So my preference is the first one because it just seems to work a little bit better space-wise. But we've got to try 2 schemes to see what fits and what works. West South Albany, since a handful of you weren't here, we just wanted to bring this up because we haven't made the choice between one scheme or another. I know Chad, the principal, would prefer the first scheme, option A. We talked through it with him a little bit earlier this week as well. But the schemes are slightly different, not necessarily in the square footage they're adding, but in the location of what buildings they're connected to. Both would be a 2-story building. Both also would remove this building and then renovate building 2. It's just a matter of where this building gets placed, but it's classrooms and the administration that gets part of both options. So this option is, it would, in a way, figure out how do we connect to Building 9. This is one of the newer buildings on site. It's not going anywhere. Sorry?
That's the commons.
Yeah, this is the Commons building. So somehow try to figure out, can we put like a connector in front of it? There's no cross hallway between it, so we can't really connect in the middle of it, so it'd have to be either the front, which would probably be the best way to connect to it, but it would be a full replacement in kind. Chad is mentioning that they've got enough classroom space throughout that they would relocate students without having to use modulars. He said there's plenty of space for them to do that, and then he would put his administration in the library during the construction. So he believes we probably won't need to spend the money on modulars, and it's as long as we get creative, that's a possibility. And so this would be the second floor, just replacing those classrooms, bringing over science. Science is currently in Building 2, so the wing would replace all of their science classrooms into this wing.
4 science labs.
Yep, that's what, yes, stacked. Phase 1A.
Could you go back one slide, please?
Yep.
What is the white part of phase 1?
This part, this is the roof, basically, of what's below. So we don't need the whole building to replace that square footage, so this will be the 2-story section.
So that would be the existing building to the south of that?
That's the second.
This is the second story of the new building. Yes.
Okay.
So there's no program required for that, so that we would just put a roof here, and this would be a 2-story space.
Can you consolidate another building by adding classrooms to the second floor?
You could. Just adding square footage.
I know, yeah, it's more money per
Yeah.
square foot, right?
Right. You could, we'd have to talk about which programs come in. Yeah.
The other question is now you have an elevator in Building 9, and you have to have a second elevator in that main building. They're 2 stories.
Yeah.
If they were connected, would you have to have 2 separate elevators?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Building 9 2 stories also?
Yes.
Building 9 is 2
So,
stories.
yeah, so that's the same thought I was having. If you had that second floor extend over the roof, then there's a possible way to connect the 2.
Yeah, so one of the things we were going to look at is moving this whole building down. I don't know if we flip it, if that works, that we can connect. It's just, we'd have to find a way to get to the elevator from that other space. So it would probably mean some sort of connection on the outside, or reconfiguring some way to get through that building. Because they don't have a set, you know what I mean? There's no corridor here to get access on this side of the building to where the elevator is. So the connection would probably have to be from the front.
You probably can't answer this, but all of those buildings were tilt-up construction, and they have that aggregate exterior. Would the proposal be that that be the same with the new building?
No. The reason why is because it's expensive to add that kind of aggregate to tilt concrete. I mean, you could,
But it's quite a bit more expensive.
it's expensive, and I don't know if you've been past it, but sometimes the aggregate comes off. And so what we've seen in some of these other buildings that there's missing aggregate, and over time, you could definitely do it. I shouldn't say no, but
So this building would look, the exterior of this building would be different.
it could be, I mean, this exterior is different and this exterior is different, so we could tie it closer
with the new
into what this one is, yeah.
Because the Commons does have aggregate on it, and that's a newer facility.
Yeah, I don't
That's
remember if it
11
was,
years old.
Was it the bigger stuff that's like matching?
It's similar. It blends really well. Yeah.
You could do it, it's just.
But I think there's more panels of regular wall or cement wall with smaller panels of the aggregate. So it's not like most of them are.
Yeah.
I say until construction, you need a lot of space to be able to actually create those panels too. So that's always a challenge on that kind of campus.
So yeah, I should not say no because Whoever the architect is will design it accordingly.
I just was curious.
Yeah.
That could be an interview question at the.
We can make your dreams come true. Do you want to aggregate?
We could bring back shade carpet too. Seriously, let's get some shade carpet back in there.
Give it 10 years.
So,
Avocado green.
Avocado green.
so the other option was more to integrate this new building into the central core, trying to tie some of these buildings together. You know, whether or not it's these two buildings or we tie it into this building, it's more of an address of the issue that people have of these separate buildings. You know, safety and security issues, trying to tie those together where students are actually, you know, walking inside a building instead of underneath these covered areas during the weather. Inclement weather is kind of not always ideal, but that's sort of the approach that we took to this plan. And then, so it would be done in phases because obviously you'd have to tear this down to be able to put the administration wing on. So you'd have your classroom wing, a pretty large corridor that would connect the north side and the south side. And then the second story would all be classroom space too. So it does add a little bit more square footage because of the corridors tying into each of the other buildings. But it would allow this building to stay functioning a little bit longer while this is under construction. But then it would have to be torn down to finish the construction phase for
And
this.
that eats away a whole bunch of that interior courtyard, which would make it easier for supervision too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said it would shift that back into that courtyard, the interior courtyard, isolating it to that section up above,
so
making it easier for supervision.
No, no.
Why did the principal prefer the first option over the second?
The first option, he actually likes this courtyard.
Oh.
And to be able to have this opened, because a lot of students use it for the
Yeah.
commons and they spill out.
There are all kinds of issues for that.
It's right by the commons and
Because
they can go out and eat.
it's
Yeah.
by the commons,
Yeah.
they do all
Yeah.
kinds of, leadership does all kinds of activities out there.
Right,
That's
because-
why-
yeah.
That's why he likes that.
The upper one is a mound.
Yeah, this one doesn't get used nearly as much as this
It
one.
had a
tree
series
in
of
it.
trees in there.
And
It
I
is
don't
a
think
mound.
that they are allowed to go in that section during lunch. Like,
Yeah, they
it's
have to-
only from
right.
that area down towards the commons.
Yeah.
So I missed last month, but in the makeup, we discussed the Phase 6, or Building 6, and having it demoed in 3 different pieces of this analysis. Isn't there any value in saving Building 6 and renovating it to meet the demands or the requirements we're asking for? Because it seems like we're throwing away a whole building and then we're building a building back. We're adding some of the same functions, if not 50% more of the same functions. Did that analysis take place?
We can definitely look at that before we go out for polling. The question is starting to come up is like spending money on a building that you've got, this one in particular, there's some central classrooms that just don't have daylight. There's a lot of functioning issues with the square footage for the science classrooms in there. This building has their art programs, and I think there's a learning English language arts in one of these. So this one is too small for those functions, for the art in there.
Building 6 is really where I'm focusing.
This one here.
Trying to
Yeah.
see when we take a whole building down and we rebuild it and we put 50 to 60% of the same programs back in the same building. Can we freshen the Building 6 and make it function?
We can look at that option, and because there's all of these central classrooms in here that if we shift or maybe orient them the short way in this direction, can we get them all and all of these things? We can look at
Yeah,
that.
just if it was a cost, if it's not, then I'm fine. But
Yeah. I think
the only thing I would add to that, Dave, is from members of the committee in makeup meetings primarily, so there has been some angst about the outlay at South versus the outlay at West. West is definitely an older building, but there is some heartburn about, like, if we find all this value at South, and then it begins to create a greater disparity in terms of the investment at West versus South, there is some heartburn about that.
Okay, understood.
But it's a great question. I mean, we can
We can
talk
look at that,
to,
though.
yeah, we can definitely look
I mean,
at
because
it.
really at that point, are we just spending more money to keep it even and
Thank you.
Well,
can we be smarter with our money?
Having walked building 2, the
It's
science
in
and
bad
stuff,
shape.
I think it is, it's a 1970,
And at that point, what is the cost of remodeling?
yeah, and I don't think kids get great
Inefficient compared
science
to me.
experiences there,
Yeah.
which is the big program that we're looking to move and put
Yeah.
into a really nice setting.
Yeah, well, like, for example, the classroom is also the lab.
Yeah.
And so they've actually taped off areas where they don't want students to be and
Yeah.
crammed them all forward to the board with all the chemicals and the things behind them all the time. So this would separate the classroom and the lab into 2 different areas. So you're not having that mingling going on.
That's right, I'm all for building a
Yeah.
brand new building if that's the better option.
Right.
If we're just saying it's to keep South and West even, then I think we need
Yeah.
to work on our messaging.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the same
For sure.
building. Building 2 is the one that had the ceiling leak this
Right.
last winter
Yeah.
that was everywhere and kept kids out of that too.
Yeah.
I'm only focusing on building 6. Building 2 is
Well,
good.
they're pulling, what
Building
they're
2
doing though.
goes.
Well, building 2 is shifting into building
Yeah,
6 and all
Yeah.
the science stuff will be in building 6.
So it's
instead of
There's not a
building
room-
2.
it's the
there's not enough
replacement
room
for
in building
two,
6.
just
It's
in
the
spot of
replacement,
building
yeah,
6.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
And that makes sense to me, the building.
On that note,
Right, thank you.
But bigger than that question, if we're talking about consolidating elementaries, eventually we're gonna have to consolidate middle schools, eventually we're gonna have to consolidate high schools potentially. So in looking at these 2 schools, if we were to consolidate, is one of the high schools set up already to house all of the students? And this is just a question, but have we looked at that long-term? And I realize that the last time we were doing the bond, we were looking at growth, and this time we're looking at decline, so we don't want to plan too far in advance. But also, one of the goals of this committee was to be smart with our taxpayers' money. And so to that question of why are we making the choices we're making, and just going back and visiting what the task of this committee is.
So we are charged with a 10-year plan. And so the growth or the decline within those 10 years is not enough to equate to just one high school or just one middle school or 2 middle schools. So it's not declining as fast as that. And when you look at projection numbers, I always get a little leery of assuming that we're going to have 10 years of consistent decline. A lot happens in 5 years. And so one of the things the board has agreed to is reevaluate this every 5 years because things happen so fast. So I would be amazed if you got that low in your decline of enrollment that quickly to actually start talking about consolidating.
And Dana, Bob could probably speak about this with more authority than me, but I think we saw West Albany just dipping under 1,000 10 years out on the projection. And I think South was 1,200, so you're looking at 2,200. And
You don't have,
I
even
don't
now,
think there's
West
any
Albany
space
is
for
at
that.
2,000.
Neither.
Right.
what was our max, Bob, 1,800?
1835.
So neither school has the capacity to
But
handle
that was
everybody.
before we had the auditorium and all of this new stuff, but even so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not gonna, there's not enough.
Right. There would have to be something serious happen to have that happen within the next 10 years.
Something serious did, and now we're declining, so.
But yeah, I mean, good question, but yeah, the declination is not nearly that fast.
What's the rate Corvallis's high schools have been declining at, to be at the point they're at right now?
They were at about 250 kids a year,
Declining in high
For
school?
the district,
and that was across the whole district.
Okay.
Crescent Valley's under 600.
Yeah,
That's
so-
crazy, when I was there, it's 1200.
Isn't it like 500 from 250 in the future?
No, I don't think they have they're still at a fairly steep decline. But I think the next move is Crescent Valley.
But they are, from what I've been told, is that they're gonna keep the CTE buildings and they'll be busing back.
They already have a pretty integrated program with their buses.
But
So we're like, we would have to be declining 20 years out at that point, at the rate they're going at.
yeah, and so 250, and I think my first year here, there were 6,600 total students. 250 students a year is a
Yeah.
very steep angle of decline, which is what precipitated it. They don't have any homes being built,
Yeah.
nothing.
So, want to give everybody some time at the tables, maybe 10 minutes to talk through the different options. Is there anything you saw that we want, maybe we investigate a little bit more on South? Talk amongst yourselves, we'll give you 10 minutes and then we'll report out and then take a break.
I'm just not familiar with South to that.
I guess I
went there and I did 2 times for South there. And my parents went there, so there you go.
This is probably a ludicrous thought, but we were talking about this around table last week, at the different meetings. Is there any validity, and this is probably a thesis, probably not, to take the
option B to be. Yeah. I agree. Is that you're having to look at 2 separate positions? Look at the top half on, oh, it's not that.
And they will, unless
You have to look at the top half. Oh, hey, good job, Ray. Yeah, oh, yeah. Good job, and that's where, that's kind of like, they were talking about, they were talking about, gym space. Like,
But if things in the middle of the town shift, like the boundary change,
yeah, I like.
or Tahina today, the new neighborhood at the end of like Columbus, that newer one up there between like Locksmith and Ellison, that's tangent.
Because that will be, no matter what, we can
And there's nowhere in the west.
having that space and then also.
It's a while, it's less than a
It's
while.
more busing required to get those kids where they need to be than, so if Oak is the one, I don't understand why we're not pushing those kids to Oak. From that new area, that area, yeah.
But you're saying right now they go to tangent.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so but you could get kids back to South or to Oak and fill that up a little bit more. It's a great facility. Yeah.
But that further exacerbates the issue at tangent.
Right, because it has something you could build on.
As far as the development, that's enough to.
That is enough.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm a firm believer the boundary in the middle of town needs to get adjusted and not just the periphery where things are getting scooped up piece by piece right now. And they're busing stuff is getting too convoluted.
I was told that home development down there had close to that new home development. That was shipped to west because South got Millersburg 5 or 6 acres.
So, like, those kids, if they were repeating on top of, I don't know, maybe that's why Liberty struggles.
That makes sense.
Like the.
Yeah.
Before Kimber Ridge.
Well, I guess that's just the long, no, knowing like every foot of that terrain, I just.
And then to south.
And I thought that was weird.
And that was my dad, like, he lived on Main Street in South.
Or at least I'm saying that's, like, it wouldn't make sense that they'd be adding that. They'd have to be adding.
Yeah, they were there, they built their house. He was the first year, the next 2 years, he and his sister moved north.
Like, is that actually?
I just didn't get it.
That whole chunk has always been a fun little area.
Triangle, it was called.
And it's, I'm not sure. Yeah.
So if you could do what what you're talking about. What is it doing?
Is it in the code? Just what's being added, or is it
to west from the center of town, so the busing has more.
And west is where the enrollment decline is.
And it might take some pressure to maybe relieve them out a little bit more with the amount of students, so we don't have to worry about. That's what my thought is. So a little bit more visibility.
I wonder if you're going to see west go up slightly or at least stabilize,
Media
because
center was
there
in
is
the
more, there are more
When I'm in there, I see-
areas of high-density housing.
It's hard to say, if you look at the projections.
Where is it high density coming in?
There's all the duplexes in that big field.
Yeah, but that's like
There's two planning boards.
30 homes or whatever, or 30 or 40. I walk by it all the time.
Well, no, it's right by your house, yeah.
Yeah, it's
You're
not
talking about
enough
Hickory
to.
too. They're putting apartment towns.
Well,
But they are putting more townhouses in next to that planning on Faulkner and.
But right now,
They're doing townhouses.
You just have a lot more growth on South.
There's a lot more, yeah, there's gonna be a decline. Right, East Albany. And a guy from East Albany came in, that East Albany hospital, and that too, so that's my husband has some room.
Like, it's not like they suddenly blocked it all off, it's just changed.
Right, and we still need to keep them out west, because their numbers are low. That's why that middle of town has
I think you have to,
addressed.
I think you have to recognize that the enrollment projections.
Yeah.
We can talk about boundaries, in fact, we should probably should pass.
Yeah, I think that's a good resolution or something that you have.
Why do you think this was a rational decision to take Miller Street and put that in south? Is it? Well, that's why I was
Because they were looking that's what it was.
Well, they have to cross, they have to come in.
So we have to go back.
Because at West would be doing this.
So they can just take the load. Yeah, there you go. Be super easy.
So West would be doing this. No,
Well, and you have people in Millersburg that are like school there.
They like elementary.
Yeah, it's not enough.
So what happens if you close Waverly?
I don't.
So Waverly is interesting, I think based off of what I can tell, they're actually going to look at it gets split between the north library space and north middle and and then they supposed to
Because you can't take it.
it's pretty far away, and I think it's Waverly's a weird place, right? Kind of, but it's so underneath, you have all that like kids for lunches and everything else. That's why when they send something else out, remember how we put the, and that's farther over.
Yeah, it was because if it was a road and not a bridge, I would guess why bridges were in because I mean the other day or last night I tried to go into town and bridges on our side going into town is correct. That's backed up.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. Well, this
Laptops, it is very books, and so you want a library to be
way so that even though that's not our discussion, right, should at least be brought up.
Well, I think it should be brought up because
Right? Because the door should enter into the courtyard, right? And it stays that way.
unless West continues to go down south and continues to grow, and you have to add the south at the same time.
Especially if it was east and north doesn't have, even if it got 3 cars.
Yes. Yes. And that's, we have it.
But he's got a lot of projects, so that might be 10 years out too.
I was told this is the largest veto owner in the county.
It's like even
just made a lot
more so. We made a lot of meetings.
That was kind of, I mean, that's not something that we can control and then.
No, but it's great to
recommend.
feasible. We would just have
Like,
to
if
move
this is
some
serious,
What's the next?
they can.
If you put the media center to the south of the other
I know they don't like to mess with boundaries, but if it's just.
Well, I tell you, we
Oh,
used
no,
to
ground
mess
floor
with
follows
boundaries.
second
And
floor.
every single fight, we did a boundary. Shift, people move, kids move, all of that.
Like, think about Northomney, they had their real issue of West years ago, when a lot of families just lost there. Well, now their kids are kind of almost flying out, and they're still in that area, so it's not as many younger families moving in there while on. Yeah, and Miller has a huge population of students right now, which is Rivetto. Either remove them or when they're there, that's what's going to come off.
Yeah, and the East Albany plan isn't gonna do it tomorrow.
No.
So that's a good discussion, you know, for that 5-year review or something like that, right? It's a good plan, but it's not like you're hands on it, right?
Yeah.
I go down to Great Lakes Road, because I live on that side of town, out a little bit, and so it's way to that town.
Yeah, it's very similar. And then,
Well, and that whole area is going to be more, it's mixed to for example, entry level, because we just can't do it. Just the taxes.
I know, I pay those taxes, you pay those.
$1,000 a month on taxes.
Entry level.
but yeah, so it's really looking at this size classroom.
And you
I
got
don't
the
know
small
about
ones that
SSD, that's the first thing.
So you're on that.
So you would just simply have classrooms.
I'm glad that kids are on our side.
My son just graduated and my daughter's gonna be a junior, so.
So she won't be going to the building that's.
That would be,
But I'm, you know.
oh, it'd probably be a learning.
You know, it's interesting because my high school in Nebraska, when we were doing this 10 years ago, they can build so much.
Let me ask another question.
Sure, of course.
They put in like $45 million in advances, you know, for about 1,200 kids, not 1,800. But, and then I come back to like, we have to spend $180 to get.
It's not, I mean, it's really.
So much more than the house in Arizona. It's unbelievable how much we're not.
My last brother-in-law, they sold their house in Flash. Yeah, we do have some, and we just have a house, and you might consider maybe moving things or adults with actual classroom square footage. Like,
We get a lot of places.
insane, how much, like,
I bought a 4-2
more
3 or
students.
4 years ago, for $110,000.
So, I mean, we could always do.
No, this is.
Did you always big size? But it was always a rental.
Are you talking about the classrooms?
Yeah, yes.
Are we doing it? No, I'm saying, are we
I
doing
don't
it now?
have, I haven't seen They're invested. I know the address, and what the picture looks like on the screen.
I can tell you, in the Denver area, houses are even a little bit more than here.
Well, that's part of the issue.
And they don't have basement.
So good.
I know, yes.
The zoning keeps people in buildings.
You'll get a chance.
Well, they kind of.
I think we want.
If I have lifetime hearing
Yeah, 4-2, 4-2.5, 3-2.5, with the garage, the golf cart garage, furnished with a golf cart, with a golf cart, $399.
Yeah.
We have a bucket. And, well, in bucket, I love Buckeye.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
And then, not a retirement indicated.
Mine was in a $55 Dell Web. $3.99. Having not done the kitchen, we've done because I'm not ready. Not a lot of Dungeons crowd.
So I have friends that they stayed 3 years and moved back to Nebraska. Nebraska can be hot in the summer, but Arizona.
165.
So it was one of us, yeah, for my son's basketball, and it was
Yeah, they had a
Yep.
You've done a really good job.
But even the kids were like, I don't know if that was us,
you know,
fair talk, we just initially went to this. Yeah. I didn't know.
Liz lived down there. She was wearing gloves.
I just
And everybody put the sunshade jump, and you gotta start your car, and AC. That's what we did. It's like 120 degrees last year. If I can touch that.
There's somebody
Yeah, so if you don't have an air conditioning garage.
You guys are like amazing.
No, she didn't school. But in Buckeye, they had them. They have little window inserts because then people their garage belong like 100 degrees, or the golf cart batteries die and the tires fall.
My sister runs way back when in the Army, and that's where you have the car, the heater on the end, totally opposite.
Totally opposite. Yeah, no, it's a cool little
So that's where I'm like,
everything's been down there. It's a great restaurant. We were there
That's what I tell my kids.
option A is in the list, but not in the picture.
We were at the bar on a Saturday. It was packed. We were at the bar Sunday night because we worked until Tuesday. And snowbird started.
Yeah, we were looking at it that way.
And it was like cleared out. But it was still,
There, so that's the ground. Oh, so, yeah. So what we are talking about is just making this longer. Yeah. So for some reason, I don't know why this isn't in your packet, but it's here. We did it, I promise. So this would be just long and skinny, and then we put classrooms here, and then probably move this here
a couple weeks ago, and I said, just let you guys know, we're ready for a lot of house and say goodbye. Come visit us. Okay?
Interesting.
The youngers want to move the other full time.
That's what I have.
Thank you, because I'm like,
I know,
that's
they-
not
Same square footage.
Yeah, you're just making the
Because
library.
I was reading these the first time I went through it. Unless I'm missing something.
I'm thinking that was the only way.
There you go. That's where they're sharing.
You have a wife.
Except right now, she's in Colorado.
This is actually the
She went out in the spring because we were told racing was going to be. Yesterday. And it was at the airport. Oh, no, we're not. So we did the White House and we put that welcome center for 2 days. And it snowed 61. Yeah,
No, it's just, it's total. Because these are new two-story spaces, so it'd all be one building.
And Israel, and then back at the springs.
Yep. They were early adopters, they figured it out very well.
We're about out of time. You guys ready to report back? All right, we're gonna report back. Everybody ready?
For a while.
Let's talk about our options before we take a break.
We're thinking move to Arizona for 6 months.
Yeah, we're talking about it anyway.
That was an option we came up with.
The whole school, do I know?
Not during the summer.
All right, who'd like to go first?
For our group, I mean, I don't know that we talked as much about that as we started talking about boundaries and how they affect the sizes of the school and how central Albany is, I don't know, too much goes to south instead of west, that they, sorry?
Population-wise?
Population-wise, and what you could do to make the high schools a little bit more even if there were some boundary changes. I mean, that took a lot of our conversation, besides Arizona.
Right.
You know, you can.
There's just some areas in the periphery right now that are kind of getting bused further to places than maybe they should. And so what we were thinking is if we do some adjustment on the boundaries, then that might even change like how we look at this. Maybe if we even out the amount of students at each place a little bit better, then we could do an extra couple of classrooms at west as well as south. And so they're just a little more equal that direction. Because the growth right now is south and east, not so much north and on that west side, obviously. But there's just some things in the middle of town that might need to get shifted versus trying to pull and try to bus kids clear around from like Columbus Street and Lochner over to west. Those are West Albany students when they could literally ride their bike or walk a mile down the road to South Albany. So there's just some things that we talked about boundary-wise that maybe that would change some of like what we see. But I think from our standpoint, we kind of liked option A for South Albany and then that first short-term option A for West Albany too.
Okay.
Was there discussion, we had it here about how the neighborhoods on the east side over like Windy and Gusty and Blusty and all those meteorological streets over there, and then Bridal Springs, a lot of the homes that were built 15, 20 years ago over on the east side, they are smaller, they're more affordable, so they're going to continue to be, at least we thought, first-time home buyers, early home buyers, where North Albany is getting expensive. And it's tougher for a younger family to move up to North Albany. So you're going to have that perpetual influx of kids. At least we extrapolate that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems that would make sense. And did that get thrown into the ideas about how we're going to improve South?
It got talked about when we were talking. We had a couple of people come in and talk about the developments that they're working on the east side. The demographer was not as optimistic about how many families would come in right away because it does a long-term plan. I think he was one family per 11 households is what they were. I mean, it was a surprisingly low number that's what they based their demographics on. So it wasn't as big of an impact right away.
If you take the enrollment projections though between the two high schools, South Albany continues to be much higher in number than West Albany. And so the whole notion of leveling that out in some fashion seems appropriate.
And that's a question that, you know, the board could take up if they want to take a look at that.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else out of this group? How about this group?
All right, I'm going to report out, but I've got to tell you, we spent way too much time on West.
Okay.
And we didn't spend probably adequate time on South, and I don't know exactly how the group feels, other than least cost, make sure we get adequate CTE. My comment about the admin building, I'm okay if we tear one down as long as we can bring back adequate facilities for all needs. But I think on West, we just wanted to make sure that we optimized, you know, the square footage we had, whether we use, you know, lots of light, lots of glass and so forth. I brought back Cottage Grove High School as a great library, in my opinion, and brings to, you know, an opportunity for a 240 or, you know, at least a view that you can, I feel inspired to be up there. So I don't know what else we came up with.
Specifically talked about on the option A to extend the media as a mezzanine between the two lanes.
Yeah, so
utilize the bridge.
So we were doing a little design shred over here. So what we talked about is putting this on the second floor and bridging the gap between the two instead of having just a walkway that the media center comes across. So we would move these two classrooms out of the way so they're not losing daylight, but the media center would be that bridge on the second floor. So on the ground floor, those classrooms would come in over here. So that's just kind of what
There's a little
what we
bit of
talked about.
multi-purpose to that too. There's there's a shade and not only a shade, but a rain shade for those in the open, covered area, for those that, opportunity to be in the open.
Yeah, so it gives, like it gives you a bigger canopy to walk under.
We'd still do a separate walkway so that they all don't walk through the media center?
It would
or
just-
everybody walks through the media
It would just,
a hall.
it would just be on the face of it, still the same structure, but yeah.
And if you're putting the media center from the first floor to the second floor, those 2 classrooms you sacrifice on the wing to the south.
They just go on the ground floor.
Can be on the ground floor
Yeah.
in the north.
Right. Problem solved.
And it's half off.
Only today.
Any other comments for this team for the rest of the options? Okay.
We really struggle with the fact that we're spending almost twice as much on West as South, and so our question was, does South actually need something that we're missing, but then we don't want to take the money away from other things? So it just felt like it was hard, so it made us really know that we would need to be really strategic with how we explain that to the voters for why West is getting so much more when South has more students. But when we looked at it, we understood that with West, the cutoff is complicated with where you add on, because that building is old. We preferred both, option A on both schools.
And Takina was a slam.
Yeah, that's a slam dunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't give you
Yeah,
an
I think
option.
our ultimate question is, we don't want to, I mean, we appreciate that we're reducing costs here so that maybe we can get some money to some other buildings and programming across the district. But it was really about, are we doing it at the expense of not being really thoughtful of what we're leaving behind in programming this South may need? And we don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, most of our input on what they need was taken from the principal. Because we had originally thought that they would want to replace the auditorium building because right now it's non-functioning, but we can put renovation costs in there to make it functioning. Because it's really just a gear issue, and then the seating. But he was not as concerned with this as building 2, making sure his science labs and his art and programs actually have enough space to function. Because they're 55 years old.
Yeah.
So,
Was that because they can utilize the auditorium at West?
yeah, they use, I think, the community center and West Albany, the
How
back.
much is the improvement on that auditorium?
I don't have
There
it.
was
lighting
cost
and
somewhere in
items, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that.
Yeah, in your pile of stuff, isn't there? Gosh, when we priced that out a long time ago, I think it was about 200,000 just to replace the gears for the rigging system. So it's a,
So we
But
just
that's
really need
all
a
that needs to be done.
fundraiser for that.
well, you need 80, I mean, if you renovate the auditorium, you would need ADA seating compliance. And the lighting was upgraded, but just the rigging system was not.
Go to Harbor Freight, get some boys.
Just because I know it does a lot for a school to be able to do things in their own space too. Like, I mean, the APAC is fantastic, but also,
Yeah. So to make it, I mean, we could put renovation dollars in there to make that a functioning space. That was just not one of his higher priorities for replacement.
I have a question. With building 2 and building 3, they're both single stories right now. And if we add on to are we adding and making building 2 its 2-story, correct?
No.
No, that's going
No.
to stay a single story.
It would stay
The
the
only
same.
2-story would be building 6.
Correct.
Is there an option, and this is just throwing this out, to keep that same footprint with 2 and 3 and just make them an L-shaped building, and then we could just remodel building 6 to be more functional and have that space where parents can't just walk right down that hallway and out into the commons area? Because
We looked at that.
We looked at that. That was
Did
one
you?
of our
The first
original
round.
scenarios.
Okay, because that's what I thought when the walkthrough happened, was kind of discussed, that shape would just turn into one building.
Yeah.
So then you would have those inside corridors in that L-shaped building.
We did look at that, and Chad mentioned that in Building 6, the reason why they didn't want to demo Building 2 and then combine them is that Building 6 only has 5 classrooms that are being utilized for education. And so he felt that it would be easier for them to replace those and then renovate. So he only had, like, out of this whole section, he's got 5 classrooms that he thinks he can relocate, so.
Keeping kids
So
out
it's
of
practicality at that point.
Right. He's thinking about ease of construction. I don't have to put my students somewhere else. Here, the whole building is occupied for both of these. They'd have to find temporary homes for them.
The other thing is by connecting building 2 and 3, you close off that corridor, which makes access to building 4 a lot more challenging.
Yeah, you have to go down there around the end, or it's a hallway to building 4. And I think we actually looked at it originally. I don't think we even needed an L. By the time you add 2 stories, you can get most of your square footage just in one band.
When you redo too, can you make the walls and the infrastructure so you could put a second floor on it later on if you wanted to, or is that not even in the cards?
It's a tilt-up construction. It might mean an interior structural frame. So those walls are pre-engineered to handle just the load they've been given. So you'd probably have to put an interior skeletal system to support a second floor.
The whole thing was a tilt-up.
Mm-hmm. So. All right, you take a break?
Sure.
Okay.
5 minutes?
5 minutes? They're too small.
It was just a question, it was like, that's not a mandate, it's just a preference.
It's a better learning
It's
better
environment.
learning
Yeah.
environments. It's not law, it's not
Right.
code,
Okay.
but yeah, we would definitely, my second choice would be, if we're replacing this, this would be next on my list.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe the auditorium.
Well, if you're gonna have to build a new auditorium, though, you're gonna have to remove that almost and rebuild over here in
So
that
if you,
space.
or if you rebuilt this, could it come be part of this? If you built, if this gets replaced in the future, could you put that as part of that building replacement, your auditorium and your library?
Especially if this is shifted down and connected there.
Right.
Hi.
I'm telling you, Chad is so excited.
I talked to him. I did.
Because he wants to create cohesive
Yes.
school and not have.
It's so hard. Yeah, well, the staff never sees each other. There's not even a staff, like, this never got a staff room back in it. Jason drove him nuts.
It's so frustrating for them.
Yeah.
Because, and I know how much they use this.
They do use
because
it.
I love going over there because the kids before school with freshmen, they're dancing out there with them. They're doing all kinds of stuff. This is I graduated from there.
Yeah.
That area.
Oh, the tree's not there.
Nobody even sits there.
No,
it's
because it's
just a hump.
It's weird.
And
Yeah.
I mean, you graduated.
Yep.
It just and the water just is. Yeah.
Almost, if you could add on.
And this.
Shave that down.
No, it's true.
Shave that hump
It's
down
true.
and make it
But
more of a utilized space.
That building, I talked to him about Mount Tahoma and how the science and math, how the inside is all so that, and all of it's glass so that they can work out in there when they're doing their labs and stuff. And because he remembers it too, because he went when we all went. And he is stoked about that. He really wants to change the office.
I don't blame him. this is ridiculous right here. I mean, I go in there all the time, but like, this is where you have to enter into the office, and then everybody just like walks right through.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So that would definitely give you a little bit more of a presence.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, they can come through here. Obviously, they're
There'd be a secure vestibule,
I
right?
think if there's any way
we can shift
to
this.
and extend it would be so cool because then you've got more.
Yeah.
I mean, and Buildington is amazing.
It's gorgeous. We
right?
love it. Yeah.
And so it's amazing.
And four is awesome
and
too.
four is
Yeah.
amazing for CTV.
Yeah.
And maybe then, if in the future you could take that hump out of there and make the building come up here.
You could even look at this if you put this as part of that project. Can you re-landscape this? But instead of lawn, something interesting.
Right. Because right now it's not used. They
Because
call it
it's not-
Critter Corner.
It is.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
usable,
weird.
and it's never been usable.
No.
Yeah.
Because I'm older than her, and then she's
And then my
got
parents were
kids,
older than
and
her.
and
Yeah,
then-
yeah.
And we were all there,
Yes.
and it's never been usable. And I just love what they do out here with kids. I would never want to see them not have
I know, that space, that
space
seems
of it.
so
But I
much.
also do believe if there's any way to tie those together,
Right, and even if
super
you
cool.
flipped it and then still had, you know,
You
that
could still
piece
put
there.
your administration out front.
Yes, absolutely.
Couldn't you turn it? This end comes down here.
Yeah, if you flipped it and your admin was on that side, you could
Yes.
almost connect, like, and build a room, because this is the door you need to get to.
Yeah.
There.
If that hallway, we gave this building a little bit of a new face.
That'd be
Yep.
super cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. But it definitely needs a new entry. I mean, and they're busting at the seams. I mean, our poor Jay has to be in the closet. Jay was in the closet, basically.
And he needs to be part of that.
Oh yeah, he's constantly, and it doesn't bother Jay, but he's constantly walking back and forth from his athletic coordinator.
He's in a closet.
He's literally,
no windows.
It used to be the bookstore.
Yes, it was the bookstore. I wondered what it was. No windows, no anything.
And the ceiling is low in there too.
All right, we
He's a
gotta
good
get back to it. Yeah. All right.
And you're even, oh, I know.
Don't know. That is so wrong to assume. Food is my number.
Okay. So I think some of the groups are kind of already alluding to this a little bit. Here's over here. We went through the priorities, so I know earlier we split them out between the elementary schools and then the middle school and high schools. So we kind of took a stab at combining all of those priorities into one. So district-wide, really looking at district-wide priorities for your high priorities, medium, and low. So these charts are very similar to what you've already seen, where we have those costs that could be deducted off of those overall base totals for all of those schools. And this scoot to the side so I can actually read, sorry. So we obviously, and a few of these items are just highlighted in bold. And those are kind of items that district-wide, they need to stay there. You can't, please don't touch them, I guess David would probably say. But you'll see some of those higher priority items. I think there is a lot of commonalities with these. You know, you see that Tahkeena addition. We see the South Albany and the West Albany in there, and then a very few other items. You can see the good news is, if you all remember what dollar amount we're targeting across the district, 168 million. We're actually right there, and that's without taking out some of those costs for central and, or NAES. Lord, how could I forget NAES? Some of those costs. So obviously that number will drop down a little bit.
Done.
You're done. Go home. Have a great summer. No. The high priorities were pretty straightforward. There were a lot of commonalities for everybody between the middle school, elementary school, and high school. The medium priority gets a little bit different, and obviously this is the longer term, it's a little further down the road. We do look at a really large dollar amount, 200 million, but we're looking at that cooling, that sore thumb, you know, sticking out there, that we've all been trying to wrap our brains around. Really, we're just looking at some of those core items like the envelope improvements, roof improvements, windows, etc. I will say, I know the group over here was talking about, are there other things that we can do to elementary schools, or we aren't touching Liberty? Well, we could, right? On some of these, we could be looking at, you know, district-wide, we are doing some ADA improvements. Could there be other things that we could look at?
I thought Liberty needed new windows.
That is, and it got on the second round. That was David's like second round.
Oh, okay.
Not high priority, but medium priority.
Liberty envelope improvements at the top?
Yep. Oh, the medium priority. Yeah.
They're not on there though. There's not? No, Liberty's
It
not.
should be. See, you guys find my Easter eggs all the time. You guys are really good at this. It should be. I'm surprised.
They're not.
But that is something that we can look at and make sure it's included in those dollar amounts. So really looking at those across the district type of things, trying to accommodate some of those higher priorities that are not the high priorities, but they're still in the medium. And then looking at some of those others, we did kind of make some, I don't want to say value guesses or adjustments to say, okay, well, it got 2 high priority votes for the high schools and then 2 medium priorities for the middle schools. Okay, where does that really belong? We try to kind of stick to that bond dollar amount in your high priorities and then find where those things fit elsewhere. You can see some of these, surprisingly, like South Albany High School pool repairs actually made it a higher priority when we kind of went through and adjusted stuff. Still not high priority, medium priority. Sorry, use my verbiage right. And then low priorities, really this, that was where the commonalities probably were amongst everything. It's like, okay, new turf at the baseball and softball fields. That's not a high priority. That's a long-term thing. Let's look at that in the future. But really, these are kind of, you know, the added things. Separate gym space, covered play, those kind of additive things. Okay. So, just a reminder, we're looking at that $168 million bond amount. So, with that information, first, before we move on, do you guys have any questions about those charts before we move on? Yes?
So I would only add that Piper Jaffray, who did the bond revenue analysis for us, Lauren had sent us something here last week about the new AVs were going to come out sometime in the fall.
The new what?
Assessed value. The increase in assessment. Did you see that? Okay. So that could change that number. Right, and so our costing already has an acceleration in it.
Correct.
But the assessed value will update 3 to 4%.
Now, do I remember correctly that Dave, you did a presentation a couple months ago about some of the roofs aren't needed from the bond anymore? Are we accounting for that in here, or did that change?
We have tried to take all of those items out, so you don't have to think about
Okay, because you had, like, because I thought like Taquina's roof was not bond, but is it? Because I thought I saw that in here.
I think we were still repairing Taquina. I think timber is the one that you're taking care of.
Timber, just a piece of it is being
Yep.
repaired this summer. Not the whole thing.
Correct.
Just the part that's leaking.
Correct. And timber, the remaining roof repairs are included in that medium priority, just as reference. But yeah, we tried to take out all of those items that the district is taking care of. Yeah.
The low priority slide, the separate health rooms, I don't remember seeing that. Or do we still have elementary schools that don't have separate health rooms?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a hallway.
So that's awful. Like Liberty used to be like that too. Like kids sitting in the hallway, you know, vomiting into a garbage can while their peers walk by. That's awful. I can't believe that's a low priority and it's only $1 million.
Yeah, and that's some of these things just kind of persistently through your guys' exercises always ranked
I feel
low.
like in the exercises in the groups I've been in, every time I can remember, is we never actually stated which were our medium and which were our low. Because we just focused on the high and we figured the medium and low are happening. And so we didn't actually take because I agree with you, like that's like a health and safety issue. And that, I would think I would move up. But I didn't spend any time on deciding what was low and what was high, medium, because I only thought about high.
And really, these are just reflecting, as much as we can, the commonalities and the threads that we've seen through those exercises. So that's the point of our final exercise here, is to really work through all of those priorities and be like, is this what we want? Do we want to spend a little bit more money on elementary schools? There's just something that we can pull in there. So at each one of your tables, I'm just doing this, I don't know why I took it so far away. So it's not strips of paper this time, but it is a worksheet. So we do have, obviously, your high, medium, and low priorities. Each one has their own sheet. It has those dollar amounts that we talked about. You guys can go through and evaluate what's on those priorities, look at the dollar amounts, worksheet it out however you feel you need to. I've left lots of spaces for you guys to figure that part out. And kind of balance your checkbook and say, is there something we're missing? Is there something you want to add? Is there something you want to move? So we're really kind of moving toward that recommendation to the board. Okay? How much time did we save for this meeting?
We want to come back in half an hour, that gives us enough time to report out.
All right, half hour? All right, go for it.
Yeah, because no, one's high priority.
One for everybody, or should one?
Yeah, that would be all. Oh, yeah, that's right, okay, priority.
Well, I think if we could just do it out loud and get some.
So that would take us down to one.
Well, the high priority is already at
And wait, took this out?
that 163, that opens up. So if we don't want to change anything, we can do that, right?
Right.
Correct, you do have dollar amounts that you can take out of there.
Yeah.
We're looking at pooling for those high school additions. Yeah.
So what are we doing? There's low, medium, high.
Yeah.
We're taking out, we gotta keep it about 173. But if we think some of these should be gone and replace them with these, we can't.
Yeah, I mean, so it'd be.
So if we decide that like window replacement,
Got on here, yeah.
something here.
This is 163 right now.
But we know, so that would be one desk and a,
4 million gone.
so then it's 150.
159, give or take. And then if James goes away, that's another 200.
So now you're at 150.
So let's cross out.
And that's what.
Should we cross them out?
Well, they've got it broken down. So this is something.
Yeah, mine said, like, I left them if they used correctly.
Just a matter on when
It's just not on what they close.
Whatever option.
But, so if, even if they close 2 years or 3 years, we're not.
I mean, I am, obviously.
Right, so in theory, we can
Now you're at 156. So, yeah.
So that would be,
12 to spare.
right, that's what I.
So you can look at this and see where you get 12.
So I guess the first question is, do we want to change anything here? I mean, these are all the high priority things that we're going to
Yeah, I know it's never blacked
That was
I do, but I
That got thrown in.
Yes, Gavin is facility things that we.
So I guess it's kind of, because I don't know what this is.
I have to do
It's, I have a feeling some of those, I know some of it.
I don't know. Is that something so much more? Because if we're like at 156, taking away essential on man. And we've got.
We have it.
I think we can just round number it. I don't think we need to. So
we look for 12.
let's say.
Right, and those are almost.
We don't want to go over.
They are.
Well, and some of those do, okay, is there room repairs we can just
take care of district-wide work.
Well, and on here, why are we replacing carpet?
These two is like, say, 6, or roof replacement itself, and then repairs.
Every time air conditioning and vacs, we can say
We wouldn't, periwinkle, Waverly, California,
And it's more of a training issue than it is a structure issue.
So none of these are on the, no,
This is me, so we wanted to bump that up.
that's right. So one of those, so let's go, why don't you read them off? What's the first one on the list?
Envelope improvements, 7 million.
And it's for this, a list of schools.
Whole bunch.
Okay, so Gilpin Cove Central and A's.
Here we go.
So that's 13 million.
We go to 168.
11, 13, yeah. Because of-
You're gonna get a bump. You're gonna do.
So what else besides what's
They've been counting.
Oh, these are just, I don't know if these are in order.
Did you include two words?
I don't think they are, I think they're just.
Right, because they already have that.
So we only have 9 elements.
So we could add cooling unit.
We'll still get them.
If there's anything on number 2 that we want to bump up to number 1, this is what
Okay, so we are saying that's how much?
It's hard to look at it.
Again, also, first aid rooms, we have.
That's separate health room, and it says 1.1, but almost 200,000 of that is soft costs.
I think I would agree.
Yeah, because like, I didn't know kids were correct.
I'm just trying to find a place to crack.
I don't know if he wants to put the exact.
Separate health rooms.
I would think, I was having a conversation with him the other day, and I think if we're gonna figure out how we're gonna do, and when we're gonna do the central to either swap, probably saving some money, not necessarily, but saving some money for those that we need to have temporary classrooms. Depending on how the timeline of the project works out, we might need some.
Custodian's dream, because there's no wax.
I didn't just show up, I did a.
District is still responsible for.
I don't know. You were talking about monitors.
You're getting your carpet because it's allegedly, they find there's a step we don't want to follow. Okay, so at least it's not going to be just an execute back up.
You don't want to spread that too thin.
That is here, but I think this is
I've got 1%. And yes, oh yeah, yes. Can we up the health room since it's our set?
Okay. Oh, gotcha. That's
Is it a medium or is it a low?
That's why we said
For room replacement.
Apparently that's like to vomit.
What about roofing repairs?
It is, and you know.
Yeah, those are the ones that said if you had those under like 7 million.
You gotta have roofs.
That's
Or they have, they should be.
You wanna add those?
I'm not,
Probably just didn't make the
where.
the roof replacement.
So are we actually saying it's on the higher?
Roughly 6 million.
Yeah, I was like, why are they giving so much?
6 million.
Well, I didn't mean to, that's why I was like, I was just like.
So I mean, between that 7 of our 13, 11, so we have like 4 left, 5. I'm just shooting it because I know cost.
I don't think that's the fire until I just don't think we can afford $2 million.
What do you think on the low?
These aren't in any particular order, they're just how they came on the thing.
I would guess that they probably rank them based on how, like, if this one has 7 first votes and that place has 1 first vote.
Did we do it?
I'm guessing they did that based on how she said it earlier, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and you can take out names. Low priority, I guess, though. But yeah.
That's at both schools?
Oh, yeah.
What was the 2.5? That's just infields and outfield.
Because that's what I'm like, if there's other things we can do to reduce the need for AC, because the reality is AC is only running for a couple weeks out of the year.
That's the rest of it.
Like in the building or out?
If we throw that in, that's basically the.
Yeah, it does. It looks
Mitigate the problem for this.
Mechanical repairs are expensive to fix once they break.
They can use keep because when we redid the church,
Is ADA more,
Basically, what we're looking at changing is this lot of right off the leg out. And the question on that, right, is it rolls?
I mean, it depends what it is.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, that's a different.
we could do either windows and
yeah, because at least you, even if it wasn't AC to now, we would want the roof.
What is EDA site? What is that specifically? Is that
improvements, so thinking about sidewalks, general path through the site, there's
okay?
from sidewalks, it could be approaches to things.
Such like that.
Are those buildings?
they're not even compliant.
Oh, wow.
The district will get
So
fined.
your number is, I don't know why we would want to raise it.
Legally, technically, like if somebody were to say you aren't providing the acceptable entrance, you guys would be an issue for purchase. Okay, so I wouldn't do Maze, because Maze had the majority.
That's probably part of why we got.
I mean, every school has some, but Maze was very Maze, a lot of it is really unique, remodeled.
But there are also stories of school districts that.
Their classrooms are concrete blocks.
I mean, it's only 80,000 out of 6.4 million.
Yeah.
I think we have to what?
For the medium priority, the ADA
But
site
we're gonna make it.
So if you took out Maze is, I mean, a small chunk of that.
Right. I was just gonna say.
That's true.
So I mean,
That
it's
is
not.
very true.
So 6 million.
I know of one.
That's dinner.
Tangent.
Out of Central was just a dream. That's like a reality. What? Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, but when?
330,000.
Sometimes I kind of feel like bond closure is like.
What are you doing? It's where like the repair costs of tangents are so high.
We have. Yeah. That is a good. I'm surprised that's not higher.
Some of those obviously came in high priority.
We did, but it did,
These are the 11 million.
problem with they're all ready. Is where are you gonna put them, because we don't want to send some there, some there, so, and the way it was presented, it was this way, some would go that way, and that
Last conversation I've had, maybe it was after that meeting, but these are not meeting conversations. We're talking about numbers and stuff. I think if I remember correctly, these are both table tangents right now.
and that would
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So my understanding was, I don't know if tangent should be low priority. I think that should go in here. Because I mean, the dollar amount we're putting into is significant over the next 5 years.
But if someone can't get into the building.
can take
We are.
Depends where you draw the
Unilateral decisions are being made.
There's a line between, this is just a recommendation. Asbestos removal, add in the asbestos removal and the window replacement at about
Wait, no, but if we don't do the $7 million, we can do more stuff.
So it takes store
That's only $7 million.
this is separate the health replacement and repairs, which is actually two line items of the
what doesn't tie talking about is, why isn't
Oh, so we want to do another
for their own?
You know, like it's almost like,
I especially wasn't. Only a portion of it.
You mean the people out in the parking lot that have the signs?
So I think what happened is.
I don't think that's.
Like, there wasn't. This one first, this one second. I know,
Yeah.
believe that there's
I don't understand why
but that decision here is not.
Now it's not considering that because we're asking for us.
Yes, now we can say.
sons to the higher
There's a reason.
But it's only got a.
Right.
Inside, these are
105 students, enrollment at Liberty is 2 agents per trail, so it's 394. And then it goes, split the spaces off. These would have to would go to Oak, and then maybe the rest would go to Liberty, because that's.
They do have a section in the front that leaks.
And they're already being, tangent kids are already being bused for Memorial. No, to tangent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what,
Well, like on the South Highway.
I mean, they had to install flashing between the first, like the 2 floors of the
That's all the way up.
Should have been able to
If
decide
you live in the animal kingdom, you're busted.
Oak is only at 218, and capacity is 322.
So it could go to
Just like
either,
Oak Road.
even if you wanted
It
to
was
keep
built
all
when
tangent in one school.
Or you do the
And
same
then
thing
by
by
the
the
time we came
that
back
side
to
of
the building,
It's such a.
we were out of
Oh, that is true, that's really.
Yeah, well, we were just looking at like if you were to look at the median priority list, and you started looking at the dollar amounts for here, like you get the ADA ones.
So
If you took out Central, it's only that, if you took out Maze, it's only that, if you took out Tangent.
but on
And
this,
that's just across the board, the
thing they
prices
gave
of
us today,
everything matter. And so we were discussing why Tangent's considered a low priority versus a high priority.
oh, I like those is that, saying there were protesters, you know, that
Even
last
even high
time.
priorities.
Yeah, and on Facebook, I still haven't seen the
That's a
tangent.
whole nother project.
Yeah,
Yeah, here's,
and on Facebook, they're out there.
and this is.
The second time we handed us out. On the committee, that was accurate information.
But it's only 105 kids, so.
That's why I would be not,
No, but here's the thing I'm gonna say. Andy, you're talking
I wouldn't
about
necessarily
West
put that as a high priority.
is not a good thing. Like,
If we're putting the whole business into it,
like, we're talking about trying to get.
it's gotta be around. It's joining the not necessarily higher than, it's we've saved.
It's a matter of, this is maybe what
I mean, if you look at, you do mechanical repairs at all of the schools.
So tangent to Liberty is.
I mean, yeah.
So what I think what Amy's
District-wide, yeah, some of our buildings are like, some of the political concerns, or even within Westwood. And so,
the district task force, Liberty,
I'm trying to Liberty and also, we still have a little bit more than that. We have 3 million left.
the community thinks it's an asset, and they
Yeah.
can't going to get more.
Or if you yeah, because really,
I'm on the south side of the building, right side of the office.
But it doesn't actually lose the asset, it loses.
I haven't been there with the
The asset.
I can't understand where.
because you probably have the side about, you know, offering a charge, right? So, yeah, and then you can
Well,
just open.
we were thinking, like, if we were just doing some rough, took away the repairs for the medium and high, that we would about roughly $10 million. Or we could add in the repairs for
Yeah, spots because students can lay down and.
12 schools for the same price. And then it's still not, it's not even close to borrow, but it's, instead of investing in everything.
That was a very different.
Yeah, you can do all the repairs.
And then you have your health room that we're not, but they don't know.
Intangible property.
I got that housing from the bond, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like.
You're getting some really good.
Yeah, it's one of those like, do we risk it and see, or is it one of those like, well, we'll just invest the 10 million and
So I will say,
then it closes anyway because it's.
I'm doing it genuinely,
No, we did this 8 roughly there from there and the 1.5 from here, so it's roughly 10 million from medium to high.
Yes, and there is, it is on here.
Yeah, it is somewhere, there was mine.
I mean, in all honesty, it's really just a story about it, so I mean, it's not really, I mean, that's.
Yeah, right. For some have to go out and say, okay, we certify the authority and we agree.
That's true too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, big part of that, but.
Sometimes.
No, or maybe it's just thinking I don't want
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy issue, but it's one of those things that you look at what you can do for it.
Well, you know, that's maintaining your actual
They have to.
I feel like it was like 180.
Is that a 5-year decision? Because typically look at it in 5 years.
It's not probably a 5-year decision, as the district has a policy about consolidation. It's a real thing. And so then you talk about that. Not as high priority, but we still need to maintain the put in
I know. No, I don't.
Yeah, and that was the thing, like, if, also in terms of making it a charter school, people could do, if you did that, the asset could still be there. That would decrease enrollment if there's 80 students that wanted to go there instead of go
But
to.
yeah, that's my line to make it.
From my understanding, it sounds like there have been, there could be conversations, I don't know if
Bears,
that's
because
been.
for a while they weren't.
For a while, they were not interested.
And they're hard.
Because of competition.
Right.
So there's a lot of ifs, but for us, for this group, I would probably say we want to invest in meeting, we're investing in
outdoor accessing, what you lose with kids.
Yeah,
Have to go outside.
I would say this is probably around maintaining that.
Well, in the.
Well, and these are just recommendations that board will do what they want to anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, they don't have all the information.
Well, there goes back to a boundary change situation. If you start
Or when
pulling
Clover
kids
Ridge was not, like, I was fighting for that one too, because I was walking on walls and volunteering,
Or that
could
west
smell the
side,
sewage from
even
that.
south of, or north of 34, putting them at Liberty.
There's a reason.
3 tend to be smaller.
They upgraded
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They fixed it.
Yeah, like busing the district too. That's what I'm saying. So I would have one comment.
Because that's where it was not cost effective
For the city.
And that's, they were
Recommend buildings and the council doesn't do it. Extremely frustrating to put all that time in and then the school board not pay attention to what. I've done it with you, be prepared.
And quite honestly, this group isn't probably the group that's going to decide.
Right, no, we don't think so.
That's a whole nother.
But it was a good comment, I had to read that. We'll get it together.
So that's, that, to me, that's a choice. Do we improve or do we maintain?
But maybe we maybe
I know, I've talked to Ron.
So if I'm understanding right, improve means do big repairs and not focus on
Everybody gets
tangent.
it.
Maintaining is maintaining from tangent down and doing not doing mechanical repairs, correct? Or am I misunderstanding?
In my mind, maintenance is you're keeping the school as a status quo, you're putting money into it to me, which is great. It's just
Okay.
just minimal. Improving is you're adding to what needs to be what's on that list, so medium priority. So that's in my mind, what you by. It's just maintaining it, you're keeping it, so like, you're not letting it go.
So if that was the case, you would still put at least this 1.5 into tangent. And then maybe not do this, but. Gotcha.
I mean, I guess it's 10 minutes.
7 more minutes?
Well, I will point out under central, but we had a top line here. Oh, there it is. It was in the high. Same exact cost. Yeah, it's I'm wondering if that's what that is.
What do we got? If we're not gonna set the list.
We got the list right here.
We're not gonna set any immediate.
No, but I'm just curious on that. Fact that it's
Decide on tangent.
on
We've decided that we're not gonna decide.
What we're saying is that it feels like it should be more as if it's on the staff, don't closure possibly.
I would find it if I could trust it to use it correctly. And implement over here, like in the direct path, and it's a different list of schools. That's why I'm hoping.
Well, we're gonna ask why it got shifted, or I don't remember.
But art is still
what
good.
dots
I mean,
we
I
did.
definitely understand, because that was the top three, for sure. I don't even remember talking about it.
Well, so the trade-off is, correct me if I'm wrong, is tangent goes too high for closing, then in theory, we can have the mechanical repairs for the district.
Yes, in theory.
In theory, oh, there's a lot of things.
Somebody said, oh, I'm
Or we just say that.
Oh, let's see. Oh, wait, amazing, because I stand at that door while all the kids walk by, are like, hi, Mrs. Nelson, and just keep going, because they know they're not supposed to.
It's really hard, all those schools, but obviously always done it before where you consolidated schools in order, tough decisions have to be made. But
We're not the first one in our area.
And then, that's just slow.
Put on, Andy.
Really big goals. So,
He's gonna retire now.
I was listening to your retirement party.
Yeah, you might want to.
And how many?
So I got that in my survey, I surveyed the staff. and like,
no matter how many times.
Replacing that modular over here on the library.
Or windows left.
School
So
closures,
there's
you
a
know,
section of
you're
that
going
that
party,
they need
you'll
to
be
call it
tar,
off,
feathers.
but I
you
can't
will
tell you
say-
what that section of.
And pitchforks.
Oh, yes, I
And
do.
torches. And torches.
It's this, yeah, it's that 1.52, so. You're like, someone has to do it this way. I'm like, no.
We're all ready.
Have you done the Alice training in Eugene? Oh my gosh, you got to do it. It's put on by the police department, it is amazing. It's 2-day training. Interesting. It changed, it was not changed. He was, I guarantee when you are in these situations, I'm sure. I was at a square footage, like, I can't aim a gun if it's
Yeah, that's Bob was always here last training.
By 7.6 or something.
Why wouldn't they have to stroke?
Because you're.
Well, that's what I think.
But not everybody. There are a lot of people that.
We're upset about the $500.
We're all in stars.
So then, like the other. I mean, we-
Yes, her name.
Oh, you were here. So then you went.
And then the other.
3 minutes left.
Right, yeah, I agree. I agree.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
I think we decided to continue talking.
There was the one in Wisconsin where
They got to know.
Not yet.
like,
I was just joking, she loves presenting.
you're not
So many times I'm like,
I really got you part of that.
Have you ever gone to? No.
not actually. So did
I was gonna say, I know I'm older than everybody, but can you imagine getting into your tables because the air rates are going up?
I was in with that.
And they started running down the street and had to turn so we're in the mid-dismissal and all of a sudden now they're like,
He thinks he's a pretty big deal now.
As you can see, that it's.
Because it's going to you.
Going to you most, Roseburg Hall, and
but also the number of things Central has not.
How many students utilize that?
Not
graduate.
Oh, no, no, 300 some odd kids.
Tom Cordero.
Yep, they put it on and it was, I took it at Churchill High School. It was really good.
Carson.
It stirs you, you know,
Well, they're not.
There was talk about.
and they took
and then they were like, that was your gun shot.
In their 60, I think.
Very real. Well, how many states? 1,300. That's what I said, this was that. South was that, so.
Back in football, or back in high school, all the time.
It's not just numbers.
But they're the only 60 schools.
Oh my goodness, I believe it.
It's 90,000.
But don't they have 2 high schools?
That was my initial problem with having the rough
Oh, I don't know that. We're just big in their big schools. Like we're real now. They're not all. It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's based on. Yes, yes, yes.
But it is really. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Ready?
Wow. What they are,
Reasonably
they're
sellable.
big down there.
Okay. You guys ready?
Always. As always ready.
Ready?
Always is ready as
Can I
always.
get started? All right, how about this table first?
We get to go first? Yeah. Okay, we, first of all, we're just assuming that Central will be closed and Maze will be closed, so that freed up money for us. And then we also got rid of secure vestibules in the high priority items, just because we know that unless they're actually used properly, they're unnecessary, and so there were other things we thought were higher priority. We would like to see separate health rooms added to a high priority, especially since it would only be 1.1 million. And then the ADA site improvements moved to high, because if we're making all the other ADA improvements, you would assume we need to do those as well. And then we wanted to take a different approach to the air conditioning and the modulars, which is where we would have an assessment done of the hottest classrooms in the district and basically say, like, we have $8 million, what can we improve in these hottest classrooms? So rather than saying it's all or nothing, look at where it's needed the most to improve what we can. And then the same approach with modulars. And as Tanya said, liberty no matter what. 'Cause, like, rather than saying we'd have to replace all the modulars, look at which modulars are in the worst shape and needing improvement, so.
Kind of like we did roofing, you know, you have a high, medium roofing, let's do the same for AC and modulars.
Can I ask what you guys were thinking in terms of the approach to air conditioning, classroom by classroom with
No, not
a split
necessarily.
unit?
Some sort of units,
Some sort
or
of
like the
assessment.
west side of the building as opposed, like classrooms on one side of the building as opposed to the other, that sort of thing. Which I will say, I was advocating harder for Liberty than Max was, because he didn't want to fight for the school. But just so it's out there,
He's even got the shirt.
when I look at what we're looking at prioritizing with other things, we have Nays and Central and a good portion of West that are being looked at as those buildings are so old, they're hard to still function well and want to maintain. And Liberty to me falls in that old category as well. That's distinctly older than other districts or schools in the district.
I would have to think this through on a timing. I had thought that North Nays would be within 5 years, and you guys were saying like with the bond or simultaneously to the bond?
Yes, although that's a hard sell with the community.
Yeah.
But we have
Well,
space
but I would
in
also
our-
look at, I think we'd have to look at what
We
that
do.
timing would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were looking at the money that would be spent to invest in that building. It feels like it'd be a better financial choice to not invest that just to be potentially closing in 5 years.
So that's one thing we can look at, Amy, is like the timing of a build out
Yep.
in the bond that could allow us to know that that could be saved.
Okay.
North Albany.
North Albany, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
How about this table?
So we were looking at if we add in the cost on central, well, first keep everything in the high priority, okay? So all that gets done. the central cost and then the NAES cost, that brings it down to about 156 million, which meant we could do the separate health room and the roof replacement and the roof repairs. And that would get us about break even on that. And then we were talking about Tangent Elementary. Tangent has got a lot of carrying cost and a lot of improvement cost on not only the high priority ones, but the medium one also. So if we talked about moving Tangent over to the high priority on the closing, then that will free up another 10 million, which we could either do ABS removal, that would be the mechanical repairs. We also added in the asbestos removal and the window replacement in the first part.
Okay. Anything else? I'll let Angela catch up first.
I'm trying. Okay, how about this week?
We pretty well concur with everything we've heard, taking this similar approach. You know, we feel like if Central's going to remain as school property, we owe it to whoever's going to lease it or use it, that the roof repair needs to be done. So we left that in. And to what degree? It could be a Band-Aid, but it could be the full repair. Otherwise, all of the savings, the 12 million savings for all those schools to close in the first 5 years, and I agree it's a timing issue, so you announce, you go to design, you go to construction, now you're into year 3 or year 4, you're almost to your 5 years. So you can get those closed by the time you actually get to the new builds. So I think that is important. The secure vestibules, we jettisoned that, and for the same reasons. I'm not discounting it. We all know it's just safety indoors and education. There are some things that could be absorbed into annual budgets. There could be ADA fixtures and restrooms that over time could be on a onesie. So could the health rooms, frankly, at 1.1 or 1.9, or, you know, over 3 or 4 years, every school gets their health room. So that left us, you know, the opportunity to bring up, in our opinion, we think the South Albany pool renovations and repairs should be made and be brought into the high priority because it's a community asset as opposed to just a high school asset. So that gives us something that we all use. We didn't find, you know, we had similar thoughts over several of the meetings about AC or about mechanical repairs. If you make envelope repairs, windows, insulation, roof, those kind of things, you now build a better climate inside the room. So the need for air conditioning goes down, but we still have hot spots, and we recognize that. So Liberty, the 3 or 4 building or classrooms on the west that get it in the need mini splits or something. So there's room in our deductions to bring back, you know, $8 or $10 million of those kinds of improvements. So I think we didn't really get down to any other specifics. Did I miss any you talked about? Okay, it's not where we ended up.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? We are working towards 167 and you guys are speaking, right?
Yes. Yeah, and we're under that right now, so there's room for some things. But
yeah.
I don't know that we're tossing anything back up just because. I think we want to stay in a cushion. And that keeps us below and where we are.
So did any of the groups total their high priorities? You guys put a total on yours? What was everyone's total? Just curious.
Well, we had made 10.6 room, and so we added 1.1, 6.4, and then we were saying like up to 8. So like our last 2 items were.
So you were taking 10.8 million out, and then putting in 8 point.
Well,
Putting 18 back in with the awesome.
because the awesome grant, the 8 million also.
Oh, okay. That we get to see more money.
Yeah, that's on the like case by case basis.
I think ours was 169, contingent on whatever happened with Tangent. Because if it basically was a 1-to-1 swap. If we did want to not put all the investment into Tangent, we could do the mechanical repairs for the rest of the district. So that could be, those would pretty much flush between the two.
Okay.
So
We were about 163 or in that. We're about 5 million under at this point.
So, Andy, I have a question. At the last meeting, we talked about that NAES could be closed. I don't know if easier is the word I want to use, but because you wouldn't have to build new classrooms at NAMS or at Oak Grove.
I think that one of the things that would be contingent there would be what the configuration would be. Like if we end up only being able to move, you know, like one grade to, like we take the 5th graders and move them, or if there's room to do, or we have to do 4th, 5th, and then 6, 7, 8. It depends. And I think we would want to be cognizant of 85% capacity, right? So if we made the moves and we're, you know, at 105% in a building, then that would be, you know, kind of, that would be a stretch.
So, but none of us are looking at keeping it open.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is just electability as well. I mean, it's democratic to spread the pain. It is not helpful in the democratic process.
Well, if we got a danger.
But that's where you guys, I mean, Matt Rutgers isn't here to speak for himself.
Yeah.
He straight up said, he's like, I would have fought for nays in the first, but now that I've looked at all of it, it makes sense.
Well, and I think, you know, Abel and I were talking the other day, you know, and now that I know it, it really is not about what we now know and understand. It is what they will see and understand. And that would be, we would have our work cut out for us to, you know, push through those things. All of these, like, you know, that is in numbers, pretty easy by numbers, right? But those things accumulate, right? So, again, so on.
Well, that's where, as I'm having conversations with people, everybody responds with, why would you talk about closing schools? We're too full, our town is growing. And so it's that perception of it, like, I see kids everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but not in the schools.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
The flip perception also in general that we would have to overcome is, why do we need a bond at all if we're not having as many kids?
Yeah.
Right, and so, you know, there's a lot of language in there, which I think leads to, like, who do we have that's a big, you know, we're gonna need people to campaign too, right? So when I think about school staff, those kind of things, that we kind of make sure that, you know, we spend a little time to think about what are the important things that change a teacher experience. And it might be areas in some buildings, right? So.
All right, can I keep your worksheets if you've marked them up and put them? And you can take the extras, but I'd like to have the ones that are marked up.
Sorry, I didn't really, doesn't necessarily make sense, but I highlighted.
No, she just wanted to color the ones back and some back.
Yes, go ahead.
So are we wrapping up there?
Have a good September.
We will see you in September,
Yeah,
but
just a couple of comments I want to make. Number one of the big goals of having a big group was to give a lot of people the ability to speak with authority about everything. It's really fun to listen to you guys tonight here at the end because clearly we are going to be able to go out and say, yeah, we thought about that. Yeah, we talked about that. And that is a really important factor here. The fact that we have a lot of people talking around town, I think, led the museum people to come. They're like, yeah, we hear all these people talking about this. We think Central might be open. Tell us what you know. And so building that awareness, common agreement, I just really appreciate the time that you guys have spent. We're not at our last meeting yet, right? But I just really appreciate the work and the thinking and the conversing. Rick?
Is there any discussion about counteracting all the misinformation floating around in social media?
About?
Closing 17 schools and, you know, you're not going to close my school and...
So we'll start next year, I think, you know, with the service clubs and just really begin to build the narrative. You know, 'cause you can say, even at the glide path that Flow Analytics said, we're still going to be a district of 7,200 kids. That's a lot of kids. People will still come to this district and look to cite a factory right? And they will want to know that these schools are supported and are good, right? And so preserving the community is going to be a really important part of that message. And we'll have, I mean, there's headwinds, so, but I'm very confident after the work that you guys have done so far. It feels like we can do that. And JL said it best, lead with no tax increase.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything else is not as important as that. Thank you.
Have a good summer. We'll see you in September.
A lot of work.
There's the staff.